Taylor Lorenz got obliterated by Piers Morgan on his show. We've already talked about her posts where she was seemingly reveling in the assassination of the CEO. She apparently likes it when people just get shot in the back in cold blood. The guy didn't even tell him a message or anything. There was a message on the bullets, but didn't even say it to his face, whoever actually ended up shooting that guy. But here, Taylor Lorenz, regardless of the suspect and whoever this guy turns out to be, she's basically happy that he's dead. And she was explaining her joy on this, and Piers Morgan laced into her. Now, there's a follow-up to this because apparently her new partner, she's no longer with the Washington Post, but Vox Media is now splitting with her. And there's this thing happening along the left where they're really relishing in this. It's a strange thing. Even on the show, whatever this is called, Daily Show with Jon Stewart, the audience was unhappy with the dude's arrest, right? So it's a weird thing that's happening. And here is what it sounded like from Taylor Lorenz with Piers Morgan. And let me turn off the other stuff we were listening to and make sure this has some audio.
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like
serious joy.
I guess I was maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And
that's a strange thing to say because she apparently is the judge, jury, and executioner, and don't really need due process or a presumption of innocence or a trial or any of those things. It's a strange position to take because she's a commenter, and she said a lot of stuff during COVID and during the pandemic that a lot of people might be upset about. You know what I mean? So why would you want this environment in your existence? Why would you want to live in a world where people just shoot each other? You really wouldn't, because somebody might think that the people who lied to us all about COVID and who lectured us and mandated everybody go do this and go and lock yourself down, and some of their policies, people could make the argument, resulted in deaths. Some people might say some people were murdered, right? And so when you start getting into this territory and you have a new standard in society where you just shoot somebody that you don't like because you feel aggrieved or harmed by them, we lose all law and order. And so to have joy in the death of another man is a sick thing. Even if you have criticisms, as we do, with the healthcare industry and what they put us through over the last pandemic and beyond that. But it's a strange standard. Piers Morgan, I think, is right to call her out on this. And she's going to try to walk this back. She was screaming a bunch of stuff in the background, trying to talk over him. But let's see how she walks this back in a second.
The many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why not?
Why are you laughing?
I think because it doesn't.
If one dead man brought you joy, why wouldn't 10 dead men? Shouldn't they go after everybody else? Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Aetna, and all the others?
It wouldn't fix the
You seem to find the whole thing.
I'm not condoning that, right? I'm saying this is insane. I'm making a joke, so just to be clear about that. This is taking her standard and pushing it to the limit. If she's got some joy out of it, is twice the joy?
There is.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving healthcare from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix the system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
And if you ever gone to the doctor, you'd want to just shoot everybody all over the place because you're like, they said to be here at 8:15. I'm here at 8:15. It's now 8:45. And so if you're Taylor Lorenz, you just take out an Uzi and just start blasting everybody. That's Taylor Lorenz. Oh, you didn't keep your appointment time, huh? Here's a hand grenade. How about that? Thanks, Taylor.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life-saving treatment?
The idea that I would view it as something joyful that a man has been, who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely bizarre.
It is bizarre. And a lot of people on their side are indulging in this. It's been a strange thing, even on The Daily Show. Apparently the audience was clapping. Here's what that sounded like.
Yeah, I was like, couldn't have been that guy. Today, they did appear to catch that guy today at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It's true. Look, I'm sorry, guys. Apparently a bystander at the McDonald's ratted him out.
He got caught. Sorry, guys. He got caught. If it's actually him. And it's a weird story. We'll unpack more of that. He's been arrested. He's been charged with murder. And so we'll come back to that in a second and get the latest details. And of course, we're going to be digging up the case files on this. I want to see if it was an indictment or a direct complaint. What is actually in there? What is the evidence? How much of this is redacted? Why should any of it be redacted? We'll go through it. But Taylor Lorenz is in some hot water after this comment. Vox Media is now splitting with her after explosive comments. And she's saying that there wasn't really a split, that this was just them not renewing or something. Like she wasn't fired. They just didn't renew. Here's what they explained. Vox Media ending its deal to distribute former Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz's podcast after she made disgusting comments about Brian Thompson. Semaphore scribe Max Tanney, who first reported the news, revealed late on Sunday that the controversial tech columnist had a short partnership set to expire at the beginning of the year. Lorenz took to social media, ripping the report. She said, "That's false. This is a lie. The media are liars." We're like, yeah, that's what we've been saying about you for a few decades. And after she vowed to discuss the situation on her podcast. Now, she said the report online surrounding Thompson's death, she posted a bunch of stuff. Now, this is 100% false. I'm still very much working with Vox. My show is not up for renewal because I actually own 100% of the show. Not Vox. Media reporters are lying about me. Tuning into the pod, and I'll share with you my story. He posted on X. Vox declined to comment. A spokesperson, though, for Semaphore hit back, saying no. As Max Tanney accurately reported, Vox is ending our relationship with Taylor Lorenz in 2025. Here's the link to the article. A source with knowledge of the deal confirmed it, saying that the deal will expire in 2025. Didn't elaborate why they weren't renewing the contract, but there's been a cloud of controversy surrounding her recently, because she's a horrible person. The tech, and it's strange, it's interesting to watch this shift because she was like the media darling. She was the centerpiece of the Washington Post, like the shining star of them. She later shared another user's post saying, hypothetically, murder like what happened every year to thousands of innocent Americans killed by greedy insurance executives denying their coverage, ? Justifying it. She's a liar too. Remember when she posted that story and then she's, I didn't actually post that thing. So good riddance to Taylor Lorenz. Eventually, these people expose themselves, right? Eventually, their anti-humanity, their self-loathing, their condescension towards everybody else who doesn't bend to their will comes out. They get exposed, and good riddance to her. Now, meanwhile, we know more about the suspect. He has been charged with murder now, waiting to get the official documents and see whether he gets a lawyer, public defender, or what. His family's got a bunch of money. They seemingly are shocked about this. New York prosecutors have now charged him with murder just hours after he was apprehended, and he's going to have to be shipped back over to New York. The 26-year-old Ivy League graduate from Maryland was also charged with 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon, which is the so-called ghost gun that's coming out, 1 count of second-degree possession of a forged document, the fake IDs, 1 count of third-degree criminal possession of a firearm, online court records show. So 2 weapons charges and then murder. The fatal shooting of Thompson outside an investors conference is something we've covered a lot. Breakthrough came after 5 days when an employee in McDonald's 230 miles away said that they identified the suspect. Here they have him in the tearaway outfit so that he doesn't do any self-harm to himself. When two police officers arrived, they found a man wearing a medical mask and a beanie sitting in the rear of the building at the table, looking at a laptop. Officers asked him to pull down the mask to see his face, immediately recognized him as the suspect. The officers asked the man for ID, and maybe that's what kind of gave him away. So why are you still wearing a mask, dude? It's COVID. What do you do? COVID's over. The officers asked the man for ID. He gave them a New Jersey ID with the name Mark Rosario on it. When asked whether he'd been to New York City recently, he became quiet, started to shake, said the criminal complaint, which we're going to dig up. Police were unable to find any records that matched the ID. When an officer asked him why he had used a false name, they went and ran the ID. This isn't real. Why'd you give me a false name? He says, quote, I clearly shouldn't have. After arresting Mangione, police found a black 3D printed pistol with a loaded Glock magazine, a black silencer that was also 3D printed in his backpack, says the criminal complaint. Commissioner Tisch from New York said earlier in the day, not that one, that Mangione was found with a gun and a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Penny described the weapon found as a ghost gun, untraceable weapon. Authorities also recovered, and geez, man, how much work is it to print? I don't know. I imagine it's a ton of work, like a ton, to go do that. You got to get a 3D printer, learn how to use it, get all the stuff. You probably have to make a few copies of it before it works. Then you finally get it. Can you just go to a gun show? Just get it. Interesting. Now the silencer, maybe he wanted a certain function on that, or maybe it was designed for the killing. This was a specific design for the killing. Authorities also recovered a fraudulent New Jersey ID matching the ID the suspect used to check into the hostel. Said a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and his mindset was also recovered, describing it as a manifesto. And there is an alleged manifesto that's now going around. I saw somebody posted it on a Substack. Some people were saying he was a big Substack reader, and people were saying that he wrote that manifesto. And there's this other video that's posting around of a YouTube channel, but both of those things are hard to authenticate because the Substack looks like it was created recently, and it's very easy on YouTube to just take an old channel, change the name, and then upload some content to it and make it look like it's just an old channel. I've got my doubts about those items, but we'll see. These parasites had it coming, said one line from the document. I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done. Document indicates the suspect acted alone and that he was self-funded, according to Kenny. Suspect also appeared to make a reference to United Healthcare, describing United as one of the largest companies by market cap in the U.S., according to a law enforcement source who read the document, which we better get. There is no mention of Thompson specifically. In addition to the weapon and fake ID found on the suspect, Tisch said, not that one, police recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. NYPD FBI arrived to Altoona on Monday. According to a Republican representative, Mangione was interviewed by police at the police department. He was temporarily assigned a public defender at his first court appearance, but they have not yet identified the attorney. State police said they believe Mangione had been in the state for several days. Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens said at a Monday news conference that as the investigation progresses, he's going to know more. We've already identified businesses that he frequented in this area, led to more evidence. We're analyzing it. Josh Shapiro came out, said, yeah, the news is deeply distressing. He graduated from a very private school, said this is deeply distressing news, said the headmaster. Our hearts go out to everyone affected. United says today's apprehension brings some relief to the Bryan family. We thank law enforcement as they continue to work on this. In a statement released by Mangione's cousin, Nino Mangione, who is a Maryland state delegate, the suspect's family said that they are shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer prayers to the family of Brian Thompson. We ask the people to pray for all those involved. Signed with the Mangione family. The note also said the family knows only the facts that have been discussed in public and they're devastated by the news. Here's what we know. He was born and raised in Maryland, and his last known address was in Honolulu. No history of arrests in New York. Mangione graduated from Gilman Law School, a prestigious all-boys school, Baltimore, where he served as valedictorian, University of Penn, Ivy League University, master's, bachelor's degree in computer science, minor in math. One former classmate said, totally normal guy. Isn't that how that always works? A Goodreads profile also shows the suspect reportedly read Ted Kaczynski's 1995 Anti-Technology Manifesto, the infamous domestic terrorist and mathematician known for sending bombs for 2 decades. And he was also into a lot of psychedelics, and somebody was posting together all of his Goodreads reviews, and he had tremendous back pain, evidently, and he was trying to solve that. Catching the suspect came down to good old-fashioned police work. No, it didn't, Mayor Eric Adams said on Monday. Somebody called him in. Authorities knew what the suspect looked like. They released new photos of him. Great. The public, too, had seen the suspect in surveillance photos. Some of the other suspect's actions, like pulling his mask down on camera, leaving behind partial clues, gave him away. But we're still missing some things. Where is the electric bike that the suspect rode to Central Park? Divers previously searched the lake, haven't found it. A partial fingerprint and DNA was recovered early in the search for the suspect, have so far not yielded matches when compared to law enforcement databases. The fingerprint was recovered from a purported burner phone thought to belong to him, and the DNA from a water bottle and energy bar wrapper the suspect is said to have bought. a strange water bottle video of the person the night of the shooting putting the water bottle in like this weird a stack of trash. A backpack believed to be the suspects was recovered Friday in Central Park. A law enforcement source said it contained money from a Monopoly board game. Another weird thing. Tommy Hilfiger jacket, said law enforcement. What a weird situation. So did drugs just fry the guy's brain? Now, the governor of Pennsylvania is coming out trying to tell people like Taylor Lorenz to tone it down. All right, you're making Democrats look bad by showing your anti-human tendencies. Pennsylvania governor says the United Healthcare CEO is no hero. Hello. Some attention to this case, but in some dark corners, this killer is being hailed as a hero. Yeah, on the Daily Show. It's not a dark corner, it's the Daily Show. And on other people's shows like Taylor Lorenz. Hear me on this. He's no hero. He was arrested on Monday on local charges. Prosecutors filed the murder charge against him in New York. And we know the details there, so they're having to figure that out. But meanwhile, here's how they're reporting about it over on the cables. This is the story about the manifesto.
We found out that he had grandparents who died in 2013 and 2017, respectively. But there's nothing so far to link anyone in his family to some bitterness against the health insurance industry.
All right, we need to take a look at the manifesto.
Yes.
That's a manifesto I think we're going to see.
We will see. In fact, I have a quote right here from it if you want to hear something. These parasites had it coming. I do apologize for any stress and drama, but it had to be done, from his manifesto in his backpack.
All right, he wanted to be famous and now he is.
You got it.
Not a good way.
We found out.
Yeah, and there's always alternative theses here, and I haven't seen a lot of evidence on this other than what we saw from the photos. If you suspect that the shooter was a different person and this guy's tripped out on psychedelics and you have a window of time where he doesn't know where he was or what he was doing, then you just shove all the evidence into him, release photos, call the cops, and you've got a new person who is replacing the actual shooter. And this guy's confused as can be because he's been tripping out in a hotel room somewhere. They send him out and now he's the shooter, right? One theory. Now, it could be that the drugs just fried this dude's brain, right? He's a he's a valedictorian, Ivy League graduate, super sharp guy, has the world at his fingertips, comes from a family of ton of money, gets a back injury, tries to solve it, goes down psychedelics, ayahuasca, all these things fry his brain. He loses his mind, goes crazy, shoots and kills the CEO, totally off the rails. Also a reasonable explanation. We'll see. We're going to wait for the official documents and what they are charging. But the original photos that were released and the compare and contrast, I still have questions about. We'll see what the DNA says and more, but he's been arrested and he was captured with an orgy of evidence. So it's hard to combat that on the facts.
Christine, that murder charge starts the extradition process back to New York. Now, police believe Luigi Mangione had been traveling around Pennsylvania since Brian Thompson was killed, from Philly to Pittsburgh to here in Altoona, where he was finally spotted by a customer at this McDonald's. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is now in police custody in Pennsylvania, 5 days after and 300 miles away from the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan.
This case is hinged on attention.
Authorities say around 9:15 Monday morning, Mangione was eating breakfast at an Altoona McDonald's when a customer recognized him from the wanted photos and told an employee who called police. Officer Tyler Fry, who's in his first 6 months with Altoona PD, directed Mangione to remove his mask.
Nice day on the job.
He didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy.
Then Fry asked if he had been in New York City recently.
He became visibly nervous, shaking at that question, and he didn't really answer it directly.
When prompted for his ID, police say he gave this fake New Jersey driver's license, which investigators believe was used to check into the Manhattan hostel 10 days before the shooting.
Where did he
Police
get that?
arrested Mangione for forgery and once in custody searched his backpack, where they found a U.S. passport, clothes which matched the shooter's attire, a ghost gun with a suppressor consistent with the murder weapon, and a 3-page handwritten manifesto.
We don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document, but it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Police revealed Mangione also had various electronic devices, which they believe he was using to evade detection.
Very careful, trying to stay low profile,
avoid cameras.
Police say the most crucial clue in this investigation has been this photo from seemingly the only time the suspect pulled down his mask in New York. But the NYPD has been working around the clock to track his moves from his arrival by bus to New York City.
That was the video. That was the one. He just walks right by this shooter right here, walks right by, and he just places the water bottle right there on that pile of trash. Here you go. Just come get this one so you can test this right here. It's strange.
He was escaped from the crime scene by bicycle to Central Park, where detectives recovered a backpack, and his taxi ride to the Uptown bus terminal, where they believe he fled.
Some of these detectives that are standing behind me haven't been home since Tuesday when this incident happened.
Investigators are...
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and I see K. Bean is reporting that on TikTok, they're salivating over this dude, calling him a veritable hero, people joking that he was with them at the time. Lots of Photoshop. Oh, no, he was here. No, he was at my party. He was at my house, something like that. Yeah, it's strange. Voice of the People says, educated man is found days later in another state with all evidence on him. Las Vegas shooting. Again, this is the biggest difference, though. He's still alive. This is very suspect. Yeah, it's a strange situation. And there were talks that he was saying that in court, apparently he said there was $2,000 and $8,000, some in domestic currency, some in foreign currency. And he said that money was planted. So we'll see what that is all about. But we're going to be digging out the documents on this case and seeing what the charges are encompassing, what the actual criminal allegations are, what evidence they have, and we'll see where this one goes. All right.